Hey everyone, Wanderbot here, and welcome to another episode of the Cookie Cast. So, last time we talked about time management. Let's talk about... do I want to call it social life management? So, I guess really the answer is, let's talk about parasocial relationships from the perspective of a content creator. Most of the time, when parasocial relationships are talked about, it's almost always from the perspective of, somebody that is, I'm not going to say on the receiving end of it. There we go. Oh, well, that's bad, but whatever, I'll live. But usually when you're talking about parasocial relationships, it's almost always from the perspective of somebody that is I guess in the position of lesser influence. So, from the perspective of a fan versus the creator. Sometimes, every once in a while, I've heard people talk about kind of the reverse. Specifically thinking of the Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, kind of fan base implying romance and other things with them, or, kind of ascribing romance to male and female creators that are working well together and have good chemistry, even though the relationship is entirely business and platonic and just friends. I've seen a little bit of talk about that, but I want to talk about what it's like to be a mid-tier creator, because I'm very solidly what I would consider a mid-tier creator. Somebody that is, I'm not going to say on right at the sweet spot of I could do this for the rest of my life and comfortably retire as long as I don't drop too much, but I would love to grow more, because that would give me more comfort, more of a buffer, so that if things do drop for any number of reasons, or if I need to go away for a month, it wouldn't wreck me and my channel. I think that's very solidly what I would consider to be a mid-tier channel. Big channels are, anybody with 1 million subs and 10 plus million views per month, or maybe even just 5 million views per month. After a certain point, it really also depends on your watch time and a bunch of other things, but after you're getting past the 5 to 10 million views per month thing, that's usually when you are a very successful channel and that you've got a good thing going for you. Whereas, I'm the 2 to 3 million a month, and I'm working to get back up there if I can get it. Oh, it'd be lovely. But, so, it's weird talking about parasocial relationships. If you've never heard of them before, parasocial relationships are effectively fake, cordial, friendly, endearing relationships brought about through social media, kind of improper perceptions of, your relationship with another person. So an easy example would be like a super fan of a band or an actor or something like that. There's a lot of people that say worship Adam Driver, from what I know. I think it's Adam Driver, the guy that was Kylo Ren in Star Wars, that there have been a number of exposés on super fans of his that are, I would say, and argue, very mentally unwell, that they believe themselves to be somehow closer to him than in reality. They think somehow he's leaving secret messages for them, or that he said nice things to them at a meet and greet, somewhere, that maybe they have something special going on. That's usually the most common form of parasocial relationships, and you can see this a lot, especially within the content creator space. Streamers and YouTubers, various fans that either feel like they're friends, close friends to a content creator, even though the content creator might not know who they are, or you might even hear about the more predatory side of it. So a year ago there was the Me Too movement, or like, I wouldn't say the Me Too movement, because I think that's still kind of going on and should continue to go on forever, just because it's like, hey, yeah, these things need to be brought to light. But there were a number of content creators specifically outed for being kind of monstrous and abusing their position of power as a content creator and as someone of influence over, their fan base and the internet as a whole, using that position to get something, usually money, or naughty stuff. Let's not talk too far into that, but those are the common ways of parasocial relationships, and it's usually most obvious with, I'm going to say, kind of really top-heavy relationships, you know, mega creators that can throw their weight around and get almost everything that they want if they wanted to try and get it. And so you often see a lot of, like, really scummy things as a result of that. And that's rough. That's rough because it reflects badly on me. And it's rough because it puts me in a position where it's just like, I don't want to say I have to be guarded with every single relationship that I am in. I mean, luckily I'd say not romantically, mainly just because my romantic entanglement precedes my channel by multiple years. And, you know, the reason why I called the channel Wanderbots is because it very, very clearly was it's plural to refer to both of us. Even if, you know, I am Wanderbot and she's just Shell, and I do the lion's share of the content production, it's still very much a duo act. It's just slightly imbalanced because she's got other things to work on. And, you know, this is kind of my passion. But it's difficult to be a mid-tier content creator because let's split it down into a couple of things. Let's start with interacting with fans. That you have to kind of put up this wall as a content creator between yourself and fans, even if you don't necessarily want to, because there is that inherent power imbalance in a way that, you know, will inevitably lead to unhealthy interactions. So an easiest example is straight up that my job relies on you all, to continue. That I need fans to support me both, you know, with their time and views and comments and whatnot. You know, I need those to continue to do what I love and to continue to do my job. And so there's just inherently I don't want to say a give and take there. And it's like, it's mostly symbiotic, but to some degree it's parasitical. And I think personally, I'm very fixated on trying to provide as much value as I'm getting back to everyone. So it's why I usually don't try and over monetize stuff if I can, though ads tend to be maybe a little bit more just because it's impossible for me to manage them. It's why I don't over monetize things. It's why I don't do sponsored integrations. You know, if a company reaches out to me and says, hey, we want you to put in like 30 seconds of an ad in the middle of one of your videos, I will just say no. I don't want to do that. I think that's a bad experience for everybody. If they want to sponsor me for a whole video, that I can do, because then at least you look at it and you say, oh, that's a sponsored video. That is a sponsored video for Arborea. And you know what? Wander actually maybe doesn't swear by the game, but he likes it enough that he wants to play more of it. You know, that's a good sign that they paid me, yes, but it's still good content. I think I've done maybe 2 sponsored deals for games that I haven't liked. And I tried my best with those, but you can still tell that they weren't good. One of which I luckily didn't have to put on YouTube, which was a relief because it was atrocious. But so because of the kind of weird unbalanced nature of me needing to rely on people to keep my job going, it's difficult for me to interact with people in a healthy and balanced manner, because effectively, to some degree, every single person, there we go, I've been waiting to do that for a while. I just really liked the visual aspect of it just filling up. Unfortunately, I'm like 2 or 3 cursors short. I'm gonna try and fill that 4th circle out comfortably and just leave it like that for a while. I think I'm gonna build the cursor. Oh yeah, 2 more and it fills out the circle properly. Perfect. I think each circle is 50. That's good to know. So I'm just gonna fill that out the rest of the way, and then we'll stop for quite a while until I can buy the next 50 all at once. Or maybe even the next 100. Who knows? What was I gonna say? Right, fans and being close to them. And so unfortunately, it kind of puts me in this weird position where I need to keep as many people around as possible, and I want to be close to some people because I feel like I'm legitimately pseudo-friends with a number of my better fans. But at the same time, because there is that kind of symbiotic relationship, as opposed to a pure friendship where you are equals, you know, they are my fan, I am the creator that creates the stuff that they are a fan of, and or, you know, they're just a fan of me. So that imbalance there kind of creates that inherent wall of just like, I can't really be friends with this person because to some degree I'm living off of their good nature, their generosity, and also their passion for my own content. And I think to some degree, once again, it's fine to be that way, and maybe not necessarily that unhealthy, as long as you kind of recognize that. But it's frustrating to be in that specific situation. Because yeah, it's like being a bartender, being friends with, you know, your regulars. Of course, you're going to be kind of friends with them, but because you rely on them to come in and buy beer every single day, it's hard to necessarily be as close to them because, you know, there's that straight up just business relationship I guess it's a business relationship, sort of. And so it just inherently creates a wall. And the other thing is, like, obviously I don't want anybody to feel like I'm actively going out of my way to ingratiate myself to them to get them to spend more money on me. Back when I was first hitting some success on YouTube, I knew a couple of guys that were doing even better, and they specifically had a couple of super fans that were dropping thousands of dollars on them, like, per stream. And, you know, ended up getting moderator roles, and then that got problematic and kind of iffy, and it just wasn't great. And so I think I always want to keep that wall up there to protect myself from that kind of eventuality, because I don't want to feel like somebody has undue access to me in a way that you know, has become either unhealthy or, you know, even predatory or exploitative. And so I think there's always just that immediate fear there. But one of the frustrations with that boils down to, is it weird to say that I actually kind of miss certain fans? You know, I had a number of fans over the years that I was particularly close to. Wow, quadrillion fingers is not actually that expensive. Whoa, that was worth a lot. That was worth a ton. Yeah, getting up to that 200 cursor upgrade is big. But so there are a number of fans that I actually grew legitimately close to, either due to in-jokes or just longevity. And many of them happen to be my moderators specifically. And so over the years, I've had many moderators and like really long-term dedicated fans kind of slowly move away. Most of the time it's probably just due to life, them getting a job, not being able to watch anymore. And like, I legitimately miss them. And it sucks a little bit because it really does feel like kind of having, you know, one of those casual friends that you see at social gatherings, you hang out, you know, maybe you play a video game together every once in a while, or you meet up at a bar and you hang out and you chat, and it's fun. And then maybe one day they stop coming as much, and then eventually you don't see them anymore. And I realize talking about this that it very much feels like that, but on an almost industrial scale. That as a content creator, I'm kind of encouraged to make cordial parasocial relationships with almost anybody that comes by. I can remember a lot of usernames, way more than I can remember people's real names, which is, I mean, it actually makes a lot of sense. A lot of usernames tend to be, you know, much more immediately memorable. You know, just to name a couple of my, I mean, like my moderators on Twitch, I've got Crystalon and Polar Dude and Green Knight. You know, those are three names that I can remember particularly easily. And I mean, there's tons more if I want to start naming them off. Shoutouts to them and the rest of the mod team, but I will stop. It does help that I'm straight up looking at my moderator list on Discord, which makes it a little easier to keep track of. But, you know, I can remember all of these names, and so every once in a while somebody will just drop by, And it's a name I haven't seen in months or even years. And I'm like, oh, wow, how have you been? What's life been like for you? And it's really kind of like meeting up with an old friend. And it sucks because the bigger you get as a content creator, the more you're kind of experienced to that rising and falling of social relationships, if that makes sense. That, I keep making these kind of, I'm not going to say tight-knit relationships with various people. And then, as they move away, they're replaced by somebody else, presumably, hopefully, just to keep my business going. But that I'm constantly going through this churn of new people come in, old people go out. Many people stick around and I get closer and closer to them, and then eventually they fade away and I lose that connection to somebody. And I want to say it's psychologically damaging, and it's very hard for me to specifically put this into words in a way that doesn't make me sound selfish, but it's like, I legitimately miss some of my like more dedicated fans. Not necessarily because they were my more dedicated fans, but because I legitimately enjoyed them. I straight up remember like one of my original super fans from back when I had like 50 subscribers, and he was a really lovely guy, had a lot of anxieties, but I really appreciated every comment he left. But it just sounded like life was getting a little harder on him and he was getting busier, and the world is a tough place just in general, especially if you're not normal or successful or anything like that. And so I still remember this guy, and I still kind of miss his comments because they're always just so nice and wholesome and so passionate about what I was playing. Or another fan who was, I think, a little bit more critical, but in a way that made me feel like I was being challenged for the better. And so he specifically stuck around for a tremendous amount of time early on, and then eventually I think got really mad at me because I wasn't playing well in XCOM. And I remember that feeling of betrayal when he, started to turn negative and then eventually stopped commenting in general, because it really did feel like a friend of mine or a casual acquaintance of mine had turned toxic and was no longer the person that I remember. Or I'm was suddenly confronted with the reality that the person that I thought I knew wasn't actually the person I thought I knew, and they weren't a good person for me. And, it took me a long time of getting used to this, of kind of going through this. And I think after X number of times for that, you kind of build up your internal wall against that level of parasocial attachment where you say like, okay, these people really are not my friends. They don't know me, and I especially do not know them. And so you have to kind of guard your heart a little bit against these relationships every single time one of these turns sour or one of these people moves away, because frankly, you just can't open yourself up that much. It's damaging. And yeah, Shell's on the couch and says, I tell so many stories about myself, but I know almost nothing about most of the people that that watch me. There are a number that I know a decent number of details, and I appreciate, what I do learn, especially for the fans that I'm really close to. Like, gosh, there was one person that was hanging out watching one of my streams, talking about how he was going to be a father soon, and that, I was going to be, I guess, one of the last things that he, just hanging out watching my stream was going to be one of the last things he did before, going to the hospital and some other things, and then not having nearly as much time because, they're a dad now. And I thought that was so nice. But it also weirded me out to the nth degree that I was that valuable to a person who, I'm not going to say meant nothing to me, because I think most people that watch my videos do mean something to me. Even just beyond the the value proposition of their time and views and support financially sometimes, for Twitch subs or bits or Patreon and whatnot. Beyond that, there is that emotional connection, no matter how hard I guard myself. And I know there are many creators that are even huger than me that, yeah, they can truly cut themselves off from those feelings just due to sheer numbers. the more viewers you have, the easier it is to kind of separate yourself out. I think that's why I kind of value having a slightly quieter audience, and why I value trying to specifically, I think, oust some people that I don't think are gonna fit in. So I will actively go out of my way sometimes to block people, I guess, that I feel are going to bring negativity where it's not needed or desired. But like, it was really neat, but it was also kind of, it freaked me out a little bit, because it's just like, yeah, it's odd to be that valuable to another person that I do not know. And I think that imbalance often leads to some problems. I had to tell a guy off a while ago because he was using terms of endearment that you usually refer to like really close friends or family members. And he was like switching between them a little bit, because I think he was trying to figure out which one to use. And this was not even ironically, this was like them being kind of serious. And I told them, you know, I kind of need you to stop, because you're weirding me out a little bit. You know, I barely recognize you. And that's not healthy for either side of the issue, but it's kind of one of those where it's especially, I feel like it's unhealthy for me just as much. No, I don't know. It's a question, and I'd love to see more content creators talk about this sort of thing, because you almost always see parasocial relationships being like from the fans' perspective of like, how do I avoid this? You know, these fans are getting sucked in, and the creator doesn't even know they exist. Gosh, what else do I want to talk about for fans? I don't know. Not too much. I think there's that. And I think I will talk about this more in the future, but the weird enforced, like, I can't be friends with these people no matter how much I wish I could be. So, like, today was the community day. And it was really fun playing Guild Wars 2 with a bunch of fans for once. Just because I hadn't played Guild Wars 2 with people normally. But it was this, like, odd detachment the entire time where I was playing it. I was really enjoying it. It was fun to play with these people. But realizing that, like, I can never be part of that circle of people playing in the way that I think the rest of them are part of the in-group. That because I am it's like being an RA in a dorm. Like, you are responsible for this community to some degree, and therefore you can't just be one of the people. You can kind of get you can kind of moonlight as it. You can be just one of the guys, especially if you switch your username and pretend not to be one of these people. You know, not to be the big content creator. So I notice even within game, I don't name myself Wanderbot all the time, and so people actually will type to me as though I'm not me, even though, like, you know, it might be my fan base's server. And I think that actually works kind of well as a way of kind of I mean, I guess effectively putting on a mask and going out into public and not being recognized for who I am. And luckily, I am a mid-tier streamer and YouTuber, so it's like I don't have to worry about going to Chipotle and getting recognized. The only times people have ever recognized me in public have been at gaming conventions, and that is very comfortable. But let's talk about another kind of angle on the whole parasocial relationship, which is actually specifically friendships. That, you know, it's hard to be friends with fans just because of the kind of give and take nature of, you know, the audience creator relationship. But making friends with other people is hard. Ulterior motives are kind of this spooky thing as a content creator that are hard to work with. It's one of those where you meet a new person and there's kind of that internal question of just like, is this person here for me, or is this person here specifically because of my channel size in some way, shape, or form? Or because, you know, they want to be on my show, or if they're actually a fan of my content and, you know, also started their own channel and then wanted to kind of join me. So specifically, I made friends with a number of people over the years that had joined my community mostly as fans, but since they were content creators, it was kind of easy to rope them into something. So I guess the most poignant story that I remember that I can point to is kind of like this immediately backfiring on me was years ago. I used to do Binding of Isaac races with my friends, and I think this was before Rebirth. I think this is like OG Isaac, and so I would just, you know, be hanging out in chat racing a friend on the same seat. Pretty basic, pretty fun. You know, not a whole lot of nuance to that. Is this charge back up again? I'm gonna wait until we get another ×7 boost there. But so as part of this, I was a very small channel, you know, maybe I had 15 viewers or something like that. But another streamer hopped on and said, hey, I stream Isaac too, can I join you guys? And at the time, I usually had a pretty open door policy, not like you can just hop on Discord with us. Well, this is even before Discord. This is back when it was like TeamSpeak lobbies. But I was like, yeah, sure. Or maybe it was Skype. I think we were still using Skype. I don't think we even had a TeamSpeak at the time. But I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? You're welcome to join us. Let's see. Do we want to get a time machine? They're worth a decent chunk. Time machines are twice as efficient. Yeah. That's like a full 2 billion right there. That's worth it. But I was like, yeah, sure, why not? You can join us. We're racing. We just started a seed, so you're more than welcome to hop in. And the guy hopped in and was just immediately awful. And, you know, he went into the race with like extreme bravado and trash talking and some other things. I think mostly he was just there specifically to puff himself up. I don't think he was actively like trying to draw my viewers away or anything like that, because if he was doing a awful job of it. But it really backfired in terms of just like, I started my channel with the intention of hopefully making friends with other creators. That I saw a number of YouTube groups at the time that seemed like groups of legitimate friends, and I think many of them are, and still are, in fact, though there definitely have been some bad breakups in the content creator space. That it's not infrequent to, you know, hear about this content creator that is, you know, suddenly got a major beef with somebody that was perceived as their friend. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. Oops. Is it? No, damn it. It's not one of the useful ones. And so I went into being one of these content creators with the hope of meeting other people to just spend time with, hang out with, play D&D with, record co-op games with, make content with, just do fun things together. Because I had no idea how I was going to make adult friendships post-college. I still technically don't, because I've never really put myself in that position. But unfortunately, this also means that there's a heavy business aspect to every single friendship that I have made after a certain level of YouTube. I'd say after, you know, a couple thousand subscribers on YouTube, it really did start becoming about min-maxing friendships for the sake of business. And that became really bad. And so I kind of held on to a number of friendships that I shouldn't have. For the sake of kind of business and also loyalty to just staying friends with these people regardless of how toxic they got. But then also kind of also forced me to always examine every single potential new friendship as a also potential business partnership. You know, you can't just look at this new friendship and say, well, you know, we just get to be friends now. No, because I'm busy all the time. I don't have a whole lot of free time to spend on just kind of whatever. And so I need to be friends with people that cater to that work schedule and that content creation style. And if they don't, then either they have to be kind of casual friends or not friends at all, or just kind of social media friends where you just kind of like their post and maybe comment every once in a while. And to some degree, I think that's fine. I think that kind of friendship is still friendship. That there's that camaraderie, more so than really like proper companionship. But sometimes it's kind of nice to just have somebody else kind of in the same space as you, that you look at their stuff and say like, yeah, you know, I support you and I'll chime in or help out if need be here and there. And, you know, maybe when the stars align, we can do something together. But that real friends, yeah, really do interact with each other outside of work. And sometimes that's difficult, especially for someone like me, where I'm working all the time, 24/7. And even in the last episode, I talked about monetizing my hobbies, turning my hobbies into part of my job as a motivating factor. Unfortunately, also means that most of my hobbies, especially like social hobbies, are things that potentially can be monetized. So like a D&D campaign. For most people, a D&D campaign is just something that they do with friends. For me, a D&D campaign is something that I do with friends to put on the internet and hopefully profit off of and grow my channel off of. And so that kind of creates this dissonance that, you know, I effectively need to treat my players somewhat as employees. And that's bad. It's fine to some degree as long as everybody's kind of on the same page with that, but that often leads to some weird incongruities that don't always jive with like a proper friendship. So one of my, I'm going to say more negative memories as a content creator very early on was one of my friends admitting that he was actually quite resentful of me. And I've actually had this happen a couple of times, that the rat race on YouTube is hard on people. You know, you look at other people growing and you're like, you know, why isn't that me? What am I doing wrong? Why are they better than me? I don't see them as better than me. Why are they doing better than me? And that's something that lurks and that poisons you. And so specifically, for a while at least, I was doing really well for myself, and I'd still say I did quite well for myself and continue to do decently well for myself. Things have been a little slower lately, but I think a lot of that is kind of my fault. And, you know, I kind of see what I can do to fix it. But, you know, with some of these friend group alchemy labs, oof, that's okay, hold up. Buy a bunch of alchemy labs, boost that even further. That didn't boost it quite as much as I wanted to, but still, that is a dang boost right there. Unfortunately, we're gonna lose the the 7 times boost cookie pretty quickly. Oh, this episode's going on a little long, but it's okay. But yeah, so a couple of my creator friends, fairly early on, admitted to me that it's like, hey, yeah, we actively see you in a negative light because you were doing so well for yourself, and you know, we can't deal with it. And most of the time I kind of hear about this in hindsight or like after the fact, or I like watch a video and they're talking about it, or maybe they had a rant in a public space on Twitter or on Skype or Discord or something like that. And it's always just kind of this frustrating thing where it's just like, I want to be a better friend, but there's that wall between us of the rat race. Same thing with, you know, newer friends sometimes, occasionally. I had an interaction recently, and I need to reach back out to the guy because it wasn't even his fault. But one of his fans was straight up saying like, you know, now time to just watch all the subs roll in after this collab with Wanderbot. And I'm like, oh god, do not do that to me. And so it's one of those where it's like, I can't hold it against the other content creator for, you know, this fan's actions, but one of the biggest pet peeves I have is I do not ever want to be seen as a resource by people I consider to be friends. That quickly poisons a relationship in a way that I need to withdraw from, because ultimately I survive by positive feelings, and the moment things start becoming mechanical, you know, transactional, that's when I'm no longer interested in being there. I'll do it with a game company, for example. You know, if a game company wants to hire me to do stuff regularly, and, you know, we'll go out of their way to scratch my back, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, that kind of thing. With a game developer, that's fine and expected. There's a couple of game developers that I think I would feel a little betrayed if they did that to me and started acting much more transactionally towards my relationships with them. But that, oh, my water is gone. I should go hunt that down and figure out where that went. But so when that comes to content creators, suddenly things get a lot spookier. And so for me, I tend to kind of counterbalance that with extreme generosity. Because I think there's also kind of that, I don't want to say it's like an inherent guilt of being a content creator that maybe is like more successful. So if I am the largest channel in a back and forth, a collaborative relationship, a collaborative friendship, a professional friendship. I will try and go out of my way to, you know, go the extra mile to get something done, prep the show, buy extra keys, make art assets, stuff like that, and to try and make the other people feel included. That I'll go out of my way for that, to kind of try and make them feel more welcome, and also balance the fact that, yeah, generally with a lot of these videos that we make together, these streams that we do together, I am the one that benefits the most from it. And so that's tough. And so my ideal professional friendships are people that don't even acknowledge the size disparity. And, you know, just everybody's just kind of in it for fun. And that's one of the reasons why I've liked the Wholesome Verse so much, is because most of us are kind of above the rat race at this point, and solidly, hopefully, in, I'm not going to say like healthy work ethics and mental spaces, but at least there's that kind of like baseline understanding of like where we are in the world. That petty resentment, at least hopefully, doesn't factor in as much. But that one of my biggest fears is that everyone, eventually everything always kind of devolves back down into that transactional nature of like, is this friendship worth it for me anymore? And it's just like, I want to avoid that at all costs. And it's super painful to be put in that position. That I've had a number of people over the years straight up say like, we were never friends. And like, that shit hurts. Because I put my all into my friendships, even if they're not necessarily always the best ones for me. And that, like, it's hard as a content creator to make friends with people because it's never balanced. And I think what I need to do is actually try and make some friends outside of content creation, but like, it still comes back to you a little bit. You know, I've had a couple of people from, I'm not going to say the before times, but I've had a couple of people that found out that I was a content creator that reach out to me, and, you know, usually it's just for like tips and whatever, but every once in a while they will specifically like want to stream or record with me or something like that, or lean on me in some way. So family members trying to get like a favor. So specifically, a family member had wanted me to speak to one of their family members, or like close friends, who is a digital media teacher, I guess, at a college. And to some degree, I'm fine with that kind of behavior, because at least there's like that level of professionality to that. But it's kind of one of those where it's like, it would be spooky to make friends with people that first see me as a potential friend and then see me as a resource and start trying to utilize me as that resource. That is something that I am terrified of, because I don't think I'd be able to handle it well, and I think I'd be quite resentful. And so I think this is something I'm going to have to talk about more, and even order my thoughts on further, so maybe expect another cookie cast on this, as I've like noodled in this direction further. I think it's also the kind of thing I might start talking to, ooh, that's a big one. This is something that I might also try and include as part of my interview series of, you know, parasocial relationships with content creators that I've worked with in the past, and what they do and like how they manage it, because I think it's a very common experience that you might not see content creators talk about as much, because I think we're supposed to be expected to be above the idea of these things or insulated against it because we are the person in power. But I think it's just as dangerous and just as impactful and just as problematic for the people that are making the content as the people consuming it, just in different ways. Anyway, I'm definitely going to revisit this topic, both as properly edited video essays, with like full scripting and maybe some more research too. I just wanted to get my feelings out there, because I think I've been frustrated by it recently, of feeling it's weird. It's like I have a gazillion friendships, yet it's very easy to feel like a friendless loser sometimes. And that's so weird. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe a little bit too revealing, maybe a little, I don't know, maybe too introspective cookie cast. But it's very nice for me to talk about this sort of thing all the same. So, with that, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.